for the public because we are in
Certainly.
public. So
Your committee agrees in principle with the intended goals of C-78 to put more money back into the pockets of Canadians to help them with the cost of living. The committee feels, however, that this measure is too modest and poorly targeted and fails to make a real difference for those who really need it. The committee would also like to highlight the testimony given regarding the administrative burden that will largely be shouldered by small businesses, as highlighted by representatives from a variety of business organizations and tax experts. Moreover, no businesses were consulted on the proposed tax changes. Ultimately, the committee believes that government should have chosen a more appropriate vehicle than a tax vacation. And I'm happy to make some comments about my observation as well. I did want to add this because I think it's important to recognize that it won't target those most in need, and those who will largely be responsible for implementing this were not consulted. There was no study of this bill in the other place, and I believe it's important to have some of the testimony that we heard added to an observation for Canadians who may not have or been able to follow our committee proceedings. Not only that, but we did hear from our government representative in the Senate and the sponsor of the bill about the administrative burden that small and medium-sized enterprises will face and the lack of consultation. We heard from Senator Gold in response to a question I asked on November 28th that, and I quote, "There's no doubt that administering this will take some time and effort. In some cases, it might entail additional person hours and therefore costs," end of quote. We heard from Senator Monsian at second reading on December 3rd that, and I quote, "There was no consultation done by the government," end of quote. We also heard this from witness testimony before our committee, and yes, including from ones who were supportive of the measure. We heard from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, quote, "Businesses are forced to scramble to adjust to these changes with less than a month's notice," end of quote. From the Retail Council of Canada, "There are some challenges, of course, and they shouldn't be understated, both in the speed and effort required to gear up for those changes," end of quote. From the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers, quote, "Those challenges are disproportionately shouldered, I would suggest, by smaller and medium-sized businesses than they would be by larger ones," end of quote. And I think that the CFIB did sum it up most succinctly by saying, quote, "This is going to be an agonizing process," end of quote. I really think we need to recognize those who are not benefiting as much as they could and those who will deal with the headaches of administering all this.
that's it. Other comments, Senator Lafreda?
Is there anybody else who would like to comment? I could lead the way. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the observation, put eloquently. I have a few issues with it. First of all, the fact that we mentioned this measure is too modest, coming from a National Finance Committee. I think it's not fiscally responsible to mention that. I think although there is the capacity, and we've heard the PBO saying that we do have the fiscal capacity, but our goal is not policy. The government's goal is policy. Maybe the target here wasn't those most in need. Maybe the target is middle-class Canadians, and give them a break too. All Canadians deserve a break, not just those in need. We're all in need. We all hear every day in chamber, homelessness, food banks, and so I think it's not up to us to determine the policy with respect to too modest or poorly targeted. That's up to the government. They're democratically elected, and it's up to the government to determine where they want to target the benefit. It is temporary. The fact also that we say also, moreover, no businesses were consulted on the proposed tax changes. Well, we heard the Minister of Finance yesterday eloquently express that she spoke to so many people. So I think it would be unfair to put no businesses were consulted. I'm certain that there is some testimony to the fact that some would have liked to be consulted. But where no business is consulted, I'm just questioning that. And do we believe, the committee, that the government should have chosen a more appropriate vehicle than a tax vacation? I've put forward my questions today with respect to Mr. Dodge. It was a treat to have him here. With respect to, we have productivity issues, competition issues, And this is a temporary relief where the fiscal burden is there, but it'll be temporary, and it'll be hopefully offset by a GDP increase. Hopefully, I say hopefully, the ones I did express previously by economists that have put it forward. And to say too put more money back in the pockets of Canadians, I'll leave that up to the committee to decide. But you know, it's a consumption break or relief, right? So will it put more money back in the pockets of Canadians? So I want to always be neutral in my comments. Senator Smith, he's looking at me. He knows that. I like to look at both sides and not just the pro side, but the negative. And I think that's why I don't feel it's necessary to have that observation. If we do put it in, I think it has to be softened up quite a bit based on witnesses and on testimony we've heard, and that's my point.
Okay, other comments? Senator Moreau.
I think that I would be fairly comfortable with the observation proposed by Senator Ross, with two small changes. In the first sentence of the second paragraph, I would take out "is too modest and poorly targeted" and so it would read, "The committee feels, however, that this measure fails to make a real difference for those who really need it."
Paragraph, and at the end, on the last line, when we refer to business, to the consultation for businesses, I would say, moreover, no businesses were officially consulted on the proposed tax changes. That would be the only change I would suggest.
Okay, Senator McKenna.
I didn't like the wording "too modest," and I could also live with, taking out "poorly targeted" as well. So that's on the first line. With regards to a real difference for those who really need it, I mean, I was thinking of real difference for those who are facing affordability issues, because I think the bill is linked to affordability. The only other thing that I wondered about including in observations is the whole issue with the federal-provincial, that issue around consultation with the provinces before it was announced. Because a lot of the witnesses, well, at least one today, said that was the main issue, that was the primary problem with the whole GST holiday. So I think that was talked about a lot. I think we should put something in there. I don't have the wording exactly. We could say something along the lines, the committee also heard testimony that this measure will impact provinces differently, and provinces were not adequately consulted in advance.
Thank you, Senator McAdam. Senator, qui d'autre veut parler là-dessus? Senator Dalphon.
Who else wanted to take the floor? Senator Dalphon? No, please go ahead.
I agree with my colleague here. Part of the observation, I think, I don't like the last paragraph, but the first paragraph, I have nothing to say. The second one is too modest and poorly targeted. I guess it means that we are welcoming more tax exemptions and more of these things. And I understand that the general feeling is that we're not so supportive of 250 being given later on or some other measures. People are kind of wondering if this is so I think I would agree to say that this measure fails to make a real, or may fail, maybe, because we'll see by things, I may fail to make a real difference for those who are facing affordability issue, as Senator McAdams said. And I think I will change the next sentence. The committee also heard testimonies regarding the administrative burden that will be shouldered by certain small businesses, because we heard that the restaurants, it's not going to be a major issue, maybe non-issue. It's not a big issue for the big chains and for the Amazon of this world, but we heard that for certain small businesses, it might be one. So this is what the evidence have said, not all of them. And the last part, and I will add that they were officially consulted. I like this word because some businesses said, yes, they had some discussions with the department. Ultimately, the committee believes that the government should have chosen a more appropriate vehicle than a tax vacation. I guess I'm not ready to say that. I think I will remove that paragraph, which is a kind of policy statement about how we should do the policy. It's not what. I think it's not based on the evidence we heard, and I don't think it's our role also. So I think I remain more focused on the evidence we heard. Thank you,
Senator Ross.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with some of these changes, who are facing affordability issues, certainly, and if we have to remove too modest and poorly targeted, add in may fail to, certain small businesses and officially, I think those are all things that would be acceptable for me and provide clarity. The last line, I guess it's the committee's prerogative whether they think that's an appropriate policy statement. Yeah. So I guess that would be.
Okay. So, if I could make but no, I could. J'ai pris des notes. I took notes.
Okay.
I took notes.
If I may, I will say it in French, please, and it will probably try. I think that it's the essence of the discussion. Donc, en français.
So, the first sentence would stay as is. The first line of the second paragraph is the committee feels, however, that this measure fails. So we would remove is too modest and poorly targeted. So the measure fails to make a real difference for those who really need it. So in French, it's already may, but in English, it has to be may. So in French, you'd have to put, there is a risk that it would not. And may fail to make a real difference for those who really need it. No, it is people who are facing affordability issues. So may fail to make a real difference for those who are facing affordability issues. And then it would be the committee would also like to highlight the testimony given regarding the administrative burden that will largely be shouldered by certain small businesses. I wouldn't have small, it would be certain businesses, if I may. Senator Ross, I'll finish and then we'll come back to it. And then we can fine-tune the wording. And so will largely be shouldered by certain enterprises, as highlighted by representatives from a variety of business organizations and tax experts.
En tout cas, je vais continuer.
I'll keep going. Moreover, no businesses were officially consulted on the proposed tax changes. So that is the proposal or the proposed observation as modified, Senator Gold? Yes. So I think we should let Senator Ross take the floor. I think somebody said, I can't remember who. They said that we heard testimony, not that we are highlighting the testimony. Is that something that needs to be incorporated in the revised version? Inaudible to the interpreter. So it is in. It would be so. Instead of the committee would also like to highlight the testimony. It was said the committee would like to. Okay, So it's the committee heard testimony. That is what we want to put. It was, in French, testimony has to be plural because of the way the word works in French.
Yeah, I know.
Highlights
I would just, because I tried to write it in French first, and I will read it at the end, make sure that we have the proper words in English and in French.
I agree, though, that the word highlight means something different than heard.
Yes.
So we'll leave highlight, is that what I'm hearing?
No, I
No,
think
you want
heard
to-
is what
you-
we did. To highlight is our opinion.
Can we say we would like to highlight what we heard?
I prefer
I
to say
think-
that what I summarize what I heard.
I think Senator Ross, fairly, if we put an observation, we highlight.
The observation is
The-
highlighting it already?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my feeling, but
Could I make one other comment?
Yeah.
When you mentioned certain small businesses and you changed it to certain businesses or certain enterprises, I think it makes more sense to say either small businesses or use the common term SMEs. SMEs, small and
c'est
medium
pour les PME en
enterprise,
français.
because that's really the focus, SMEs.
Certain SME.
PME en français.
Small and medium business.
OK, écoute, voilà.
That was the focus. Really.
Yeah.
Oui, Senator Moreau.
Senator Moreau? Affordability, the way it's translated as abordabilité in French, is not a proper translation. I think it would be issues with the cost of living in French.
Donc, OK, on...
All right, so let's take it from the top. It's 130. So what it says is, and I'll read it again. Second paragraph, the committee feels, however, that this measure may fail to make a real difference for those who are facing affordability issues. The committee heard testimony regarding the administrative burden that will largely be shouldered by a certain small and medium enterprises, SMEs, as highlighted by representatives from a variety of business organizations and tax experts. Moreover, no businesses were officially consulted on the proposed tax changes. Do we have consensus? It's a certain small and medium enterprises.
It's a small
Qui
and
reposera sur
medium
certaines
size.
petites entreprises.
It's an issue, but
Sur
not for
certaines-
Amazon.
Qui reposera
So it will largely be shouldered on certain small and medium enterprises. That's what I said. No, but you said largely. Yes, because it will be shouldered largely by certain small and medium enterprises.
It's become a
not
burden for
necessarily
small
all.
and small
Not
and medium.
necessarily all. Not necessarily. C'est pas nécessairement tout.
No, not necessarily all small and medium enterprises will be affected. And my brother's small business won't be affected by this. So it doesn't necessarily affect all businesses. But can't we just say will largely be shouldered by certain small and medium businesses? So it's the burden that will be shouldered, that will largely be shouldered. It won't be shouldered largely, it will largely be shouldered. So the burden will be heavier for small and medium enterprises. I think we have consensus.
Do I need to No, that's okay. That's clear. OK, parfait. Ça sera en anglais et en français.
Perfect. So it'll be in French and English. We have another proposal, and we have to go quickly because we are over time already, slightly. We have a proposal from Senator Pate.
About the provincial impact as
Yeah,
well?
but I received one officially
Okay,
on
so
the
we'll do
proper
this,
way.
do that, and then do
And
a
then,
provincial one?
yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
No problem. Senator McBean, could you present your observation?
Avant de passer à l'autre, la sénatrice
Mr. Chair, before that, Senator McAdam wanted that to have a comment added to the current observation. It's not a new proposal. Oh, I thought it was an absolutely new proposal about the provinces. So you wanted to add this to the...
Vous voulez l'ajouter dans l'observation.
Senator Ross's observation, that's all.
Okay, we could do it now. Donc, on ajouterait que le...
So we would add a sentence saying that the committee is disappointed that the provinces were not consulted? Microphone, please. So we could say that there was no official consultation and add it. So it could be in another sentence. But basically, the committee deplores the fact that the provinces, maybe one province was consulted, but the provinces were not properly consulted. It would seem we'd have to say no, but everybody told us that they weren't consulted. We didn't have representatives of provinces, but even the minister said so. None of the provinces were consulted. Or the provinces as a group were not consulted. There may have been one or two that got a phone call. So here, I think my neighbor's suggestion is good. Moreover, no business or province was officially consulted. Yes, that would be a way of bringing it in. Does that work? Yes? So, moreover, no businesses or provinces were officially consulted on the proposed tax change. No business or provinces seem to have been consulted. In French, it becomes, moreover, no businesses or provinces seem to have been consulted on the proposed changes.
No provinces and businesses or businesses
Appear
were
to have been.
officially
Appear to have been.
Officially consulted? You said businesses and provinces were not consulted. And then if there was one that happened, or officially consulted, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Moi,
officially.
I agree with you. Moi, je trouve que c'est plus simple.
It's much
Here, keep it
less
simple.
risk in case there's one
Officially.
out there that can produce a document.
OK. Ça va? Consensus? C'est bon, vous l'avez capté? Could you repeat, Senator McAdam, for the clerk?
Just take out the word no
Doesn't mean
and say businesses and provinces were not adequately consulted? Or were not officially consulted?
I think it's safer to use officially.
Okay.
Officially, it's
Okay.
safer
Okay.
than...
Yeah, so businesses and provinces were not officially consulted. I think it gives us a little wiggle room in case there was
OK,
one
perfect.
business or one province.
Yes.
OK, parfait, on a un deal.
All right, we have a deal on that.